It's basketball time. Will Ogen and Jim Quist, this is ACC Nation. Thanks for letting us join you. We're going to talk women's NCAA tournament, the NIT, and the NCAA men's tournament, how everybody has sort of worked their way into certain seeds and why they belong there, why they might not, and who we think might fall early or go a long way. So strap in, man. Here it comes. Let's talk about basketball. Let's start out with the women, Will. And I don't think there's any surprise at all about who the top pick as the number one seed is overall.
Yeah, we we talked about this with Megan Gower, a little over a week ago, and it was a consensus no matter what UConn did, they were going to be overall number one seed. And they continue to show why they are the best team in the country, earning the overall number one seed. And quite frankly, they're going to be the overwhelming favorite to win.
Yeah, and rightfully so, I would think. So they're going to be, which I found this interesting. They're the number one seed in the Fort Worth region.
hmm
So it's a little different on the women's side than as opposed to how, let's say, the NIT or the sometimes even the guys do things. It's
hmm
a little more regionalized. That's a long haul away from home for the Huskies, and of course they won't. I doubt very seriously they'll be hurting for any fans because they travel very well.
Well, yeah, obviously with the way things are set up, they'll have the first two rounds at home, but then we'll go to Fort Worth for the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. And like you said, I don't see a shortage of UConn fans showing up from going from stores to Fort Worth. I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, that they'll make their way there somewhere or another. So also on the Fort Worth dais is number nine Syracuse, who will be taking on number eight Iowa State.
It's an interesting matchup from the standpoint of obviously we knew Syracuse would make the tournament and they get paired with Iowa State, who, if you're not familiar with Audi Crook, she is one of the most dominant people in the middle for among anybody in women's basketball. But the problem is defense is not her strong suit. So if you can pull her out and make her try to defend you in the perimeter, then you have a real good shot of winning. And that's how I can see Syracuse winning this game. But whoever wins this game is probably losing by 30 to UConn. Let's be real.
It's not going to be an easy ride thereafter. So that game is scheduled for the 21st at 5:30. That's Eastern time, by the way, folks. All these times are going to be Eastern for all of our fans across the world. So set your clocks by that. Up next for the ACC, a game that's going to be on the 20th at 5:30, is number four North Carolina taking on number 13 Western Illinois. This should be a fairly, I hesitate to say this in a tournament, but a fairly easy ride for North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina got their way to hosting, the first two rounds as well. They played really well, obviously, over the course of the season, and they get a Western Illinois team that won their auto bid. And I'm curious about their second round matchup, though. If should they win, they would take on Maryland,
Hmm.
obviously former ACC school, a team that kind of struggled at the end of the season. They were in line to host, but then, as I mentioned, they struggled, so they kind of fell off that. And if Carolina continues to play their brand of basketball, I think they can get to the second weekend for sure.
Then on the 21st, also at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is number six Notre Dame taking on number 11 Fairfield.
Yeah, we've talked about Notre Dame as a team that's been a little up and down over the course of the season. They've been up lately, and Fairfield obviously being an 11 seed, not going to be an easy out. They would take on Ohio State, who again a three seed, very very difficult matchup in a region where they're going to be in Columbus. And quite frankly, this is probably if everything holds, probably going to be one of the more intriguing second round matchups of the tournament on the women's side.
That pretty much wraps it up on that side for ACC teams. Any other interesting games on that side of the bracket for you that you think that people ought to be keeping a close eye on?
Um, I think we talked about the best matchups, but the thing that I wanted when, especially after talking to Megan a week ago, is I really wanted to find a way to put Vanderbilt in my Final Four this season. But then when I saw they got paired up as the two seed with UConn, I'm like, scratch that.
Yeah, that's don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. So let's switch over to Sacramento. The top seed there is UCLA, and it was a battle between UCLA and UConn as to who was going to be the overall number one pick. And I think you kind of saw the writing on the wall the closer we got to selection committee time. So they're going to take on number 16 Cal Baptist. So that, well, congratulations to Cal Baptist. That's their first ride, isn't it?
I believe so. I know the men are going dancing for the first time. I believe the women are as well.
So something positive happening at Cal Baptist there in their basketball program, probably worth keeping an eye on in the future, to see how they continue if they stay in and continue to deliver teams into the NCAA tournament. That'll be fun to watch. So we have to slide all the way down here to find the number one seed, not number one seed, sorry, number three seed, Duke. They're going to be playing on the 20th at 11:30 in the morning against number 14, Charleston.
Yeah, we talked about the Blue Devils over the course of this season as a team that has really come on, really dominated the ACC. And I mean, obviously, their first round matchup against College of Charleston, I believe they're dancing for the first time as well. Should they win, they will take on Baylor, who is actually going to be playing against a play-in game of Nebraska and Richmond. So, right in your backyard, the Spiders are in the tournament, Jim. They'll, if they can get through, they would be facing LSU, which
Tough.
please beat Kim Mulkey. That's all I ask. And I think if they do, they have a real shot. Just we've talked about how good their defense has been. I think they have a real shot to take
Yeah.
out UCLA if chalk holds. But the one matchup that I look at in that first round in that region that makes me think the selection committee has a sense of humor is putting Minnesota up against Green Bay.
Oh yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that these two particular teams have a rivalry, but it's the whole,
It's a concept.
we have, the Vikings versus the Packers, Minnesota against Green Bay. There's hatred between the two towns.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny, and like I said, I thought they had a sense of humor for doing that.
I think they do. So that's it for that side of things on the I believe Sacramento side. Let's slide down to Sacramento 4. And South Carolina is the top seed there. We have a team that's going to have to play in order to match up with South Carolina, and I do not envy that team. So
Mm-mm.
not at all. Let's slide on down. Our next game on that list is number 8 Clemson taking on number 9 USC. So that's going to be on the 21st, 3:30 in the afternoon, and that looks, at least on paper, like a pretty decent matchup, Will.
Yeah, the thing about this is USC it did this without their star player Juju Watkins for the entire season. I believe she tore her ACL in last season's tournament, and obviously, like I said, they was out the entire season, and now they still got a nice seed, in the tournament and they're going to play Clemson, a team that has they've had their fair share of ups and downs throughout the season. They lost by 35 to Stanford before the end of before the end of the season. Um, and they've had a couple losses along the way that have been a bit questionable, but yeah, if they get in, if they are able to defeat USC, they're gonna have to contend with South Carolina, which, as we said, Don Staley is one of the best pure coaches in the sport of basketball, men or women.
Yes, and that is Looking at this entire list of teams here, that is not going to be an easy road.
Mm-mm.
The number two seed is Iowa, who's taking on number 15 FDU. I don't see any problem there, but number two, Iowa is a problem. Uh,
Hmm.
Number three, TCU is also an issue. They're taking on number 14 seed UC San Diego. And
And
of course, as you mentioned, South Carolina.
yeah, and we should also mention that Virginia is in this as in the play-in game
Right.
against Arizona State. The Hoos have made the tournament as a play-in. This is their first appearance, I want to say, in like 9 years or something like that. Able to sneak in. They were literally the way they set this up, the select if you didn't watch the selection show on Sunday night, is they literally made this play-in game the last game they announced and ended up being Virginia against Arizona State. And I'm very intrigued by this. Obviously, Virginia has Kamora Johnson, who's been a really, really good player for the Hoos over the years. They're going up a Arizona State team coached by Molly Miller, who in her first year has gotten them there. She did a phenomenal job at Grand Canyon before taking over the Arizona State job and got them to the tournament in year one. I think that's a program on the rise to me. But Georgia, whoever wins is, Georgia will be a tough task. But the fact that Iowa has been able to continue this momentum post Caitlin Clark says a lot about what they could do as a program too.
Very true. So whoever comes out of that Virginia Arizona game, if they stand a shot at taking out number seven seed Georgia, I mean anything's possible. Um, but they probably will face number two seed Iowa. So best of luck. It's going to be tough. I think that while it doesn't completely cover all of our first four games, which by the way are the 18th through the 19th, we'll get into, I think there's one more left on our list, or maybe two. We'll see here in just a second. Fort Worth 3, the number one seed there is Texas. And one of those teams is on that play in. I think it's the Southern Sanford game, isn't it?
I believe you're correct. And the playing game on the in the Sacramento going up against South Carolina is Missouri State and Stephen F. Austin.
There we go. Thank you. I appreciate you filling in those blanks. Um, let's see. Who do we have next? Game on the 20th at 1:30 is number 9 seed Virginia Tech, who will face off with number 8 Oregon. This should be a very good game.
Yeah, we talked about the Hokies and the way they played, towards the end of the season, a team that really went from one of the last teams in not long before Selection Sunday, and then they ended up getting in comfortably. Oregon is was 22-12 on the season. They were actually 8-10 in the Big Ten. Um, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting matchup. But Virginia, let's say the Hokies have played some very good basketball, but Oregon's a tough team. They lost to Michigan by 22 in their last game, but they also beat Maryland, who we talked about a moment ago as a team in the tournament. Um, so yeah, this should be a very interesting matchup. And we've talked about, Texas being the one seed in this region, a team that I've kind of started to fall in love with a little bit, and especially talking to Megan about them last week. This is a team I think will win this region and the Longhorns.
A game that's on the 21st at 2:30 in the afternoon, which intrigues me because I have a special place in my heart for James Madison, mainly because I lived just off campus for a while and was involved with a lot of things with student activities and used to hire a lot of kids for the TV station when I worked there. Um, they're going up against Kenny Brooks, who used to be at Virginia Tech, a number 5 seed, Kentucky. I just think that James Madison is one of those teams that you cannot take your eye off. And I know that Kenny Brooks knows that. So I just see this as a fun game, at least in the front end. It could be a very competitive game. I don't feel as if the Dukes could knock off the Wildcats here, but I think they'll give them an interesting game. So.
Yeah, you can never count out JMU in anything, right, Jim?
This is true. They have been known to knock off people when you least expect them in
Yep.
just about every sport.
Yeah, and you talked about the other side. Former Virginia Tech coach Kenny Brooks is back in the tournament with Kentucky. I think this is the second year in a row they've done it with under him, and they take on JMU, and if they, should they win that, they should take on West Virginia. This first two games are going to be in Morgantown, so a very interesting matchup there. But yeah, I think this is a spot where you could potentially see some chaos, though.
Yeah, that number four seed West Virginia, and congratulations to the Mountaineers. I think they really fought their way into that and deserve it. Another team that they're playing that I think has fought their way into it and deserve it is number 13 seed Miami of Ohio. So those two teams facing off, and as you indicate, the winner of that game will meet the winner of the Kentucky James Madison game, and that should be, as you put it, intriguing. So
Hmm.
we'll see where that goes. Up next for the ACC on the 21st at 12 noon, we've got number three seed Louisville taking on number 14 Vermont.
Yeah, Louisville, again, they had a real strong close to the season, still got a three seed despite losing the ACC championship game to Duke, who also was a three seed. Um, again, Vermont winning the America East. Again, this should be a relatively easy game for them. Alabama potentially or Rhode Island in the second round is, well, a potential intriguing matchup, but I like Louisville to get out of this, and I'm kind of and if they can do it, I think I'm kind of intrigued about what they can do if Michigan can get out of this region. What Louisville can do against Michigan. I mean, this Wolverines team is good. They just lost the Big Ten championship game by 17 points to Iowa. Um, yeah, I think there's a way through this for Louisville.
Yeah, could very well be. Now, they're gonna probably, I don't know. This game concerns me a little bit for the Pack. Our next ACC team on the 20th at 8 o'clock p.m. Is NC State. They're the number seven seed, and they're going to go up against number 10 seed Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is always just their women's program has just been over the years been killer. Now, that's not to say that NC State's hasn't been too. They have certainly been there and been competitive as all get out. This, I think, is it's just going to be a real barn burner of a game.
I'm interested in this because these two teams actually met to start the season,
Hmm.
and State won by three. Um, so I was a little surprised when I saw that they're meeting them again. And um, you keep in mind too that Tennessee has lost seven in a row. So that's not a good sign. And I think it's interesting too at the same time that this has felt like a down year for NC State, yet they still got a seven seed. And I think they should win this game just because I have a hard time picking against a team that's lost seven, picking a team that's lost seven in a row coming
Yeah.
into this.
Yeah, understand. And as you were talking about, number two seed Michigan will be taking on number 15 Holy Cross, and you know that next game for whoever wins, and as you're projecting, NC State wins, moves on. They face off with number two Michigan. That could be a roadblock in a big way. And you were also kind of projecting there that Louisville might meet up with Michigan. So we'll see how this all plays out. So
Hmm.
lot to look at there. So we've taken a look at least briefly the NCAA women's basketball tournament bracket and especially the ACC teams. And so our next bracket that we're going to take a look at, it won't take too long to do this, but we're going to take a look at the NIT. Now, we've had a lot of teams that have said, no thanks, we're not going. One of them was Virginia Tech. Um, but there are two teams out of the ACC that are within the National Invitation Tournament. That gets underway tomorrow, and we'll see how that all plays out. The first rounds are 17th and 18th. Um, this ought to be fun. I'm just kind of looking at this list. Um, One of the number one seeds here out of the ACC is Wake Forest. And of course, that's the Winston-Salem region. They will be taking on Navy. And so let's see. We'll see how that plays out. Um, let's take a look at that particular region and talk a little bit about it, Will.
Yeah, so I'm happy that Wake Forest is getting play accepted this invitation to play in the NIT. This is a team that actually has a lot that could potentially return next year. I mean, transfer portal aside, we just don't know, right? But Juke Harris, sophomore, Miles Colvin, junior, Trevon Spillers is gone, but you get Omaha Baloo for one more year. Cooper Schweiger's a junior. Yeah, a lot of this core could be back if you're able to keep them, and obviously we know Steve Forbes is going to be back next season. If they can build around it, then yeah, maybe this time next year, we're talking Wake Forest is an NCAA tournament team. But again, they have, and I don't know, I don't know what Juke Harris's prospects are like. Maybe he looks at the draft, maybe keeps his eligibility, but I think a lot of what Wake's success will be in 2027 is going to revolve around whether he stays.
True. So also on that side in the bracket, we've got Illinois State against Kent State. We've got Yale against UNCW and Dayton against Bradley. Dayton is the team that I think that we all ought to be keeping an eye on here.
Yeah, Dayton has had a pretty good season. They actually had a real shot of getting to the A-10 championship game and causing some more chaos this season. They're a really good team. You know, they how do I explain this? Like I've watched them several times this year. Remember when they gave Virginia a game in December? They've been a little bit up and down, but you know they're on their best. They can beat a lot of good teams, and it would not surprise me if we're talking later down the road and we see Wake Forest matching up with Dayton.
I would agree with that, and that's just sort of what I'm thinking is going to happen here. And I don't want to overlook anybody on this list, but I think that Dayton, to me, is a fairly consistent from the standpoint of showing up in tournaments. They haven't had the best of years, I'd say this year and maybe a little bit of last year, but uh, that's just a team you better keep an eye on. Um, Also on that side of the bracket, another number one seed is Auburn. Of course, now that is a team to certainly keep an eye on from the standpoint of what's going on. They're going to be meeting up with South Alabama. Seattle is taking on St. Thomas out of
St.
Minnesota.
Thomas, that's right up the road in St. Paul from me. So
Almost your backyard.
almost my backyard. It's like 20 minutes away. I haven't been, they just opened up a new stadium or new arena this year. I haven't been to it, but I've been to their old arena and got courtside seats because, well, they were playing Montana State, so I get why. But Saint and just gonna plug this. I'm gonna be on the All Sports Discussion podcast with our friends Matthew and Jeff here in a couple of weeks to we're going to be talking Frozen Four, and I'm sure Matthew and I have had discussions about St. Thomas online, and I'm sure we're going to be talking about St. Thomas at some point. But this is a team that almost well, they almost went to the Summit League championship game and in their first year eligible, and this is a team that is rapidly ascending, I would say.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that's the thing. I think with a couple of sports, they're actually doing that.
mhm.
Again, you don't just because you're not familiar with the name, don't push them
Hmm.
off to the side here, folks.
And I know a lot of Tommy grads, so
A lot of Tommies, okay. Up next is George Mason taking on Liberty. That's a Virginia sort of game. That should be an interesting matchup. I'm not really sure. I haven't heard that much out of even though I'm in the state of Virginia, I haven't heard that much about George Mason and Liberty this season. Um, I don't typically follow them, but
Yeah.
you're exposed to all of the stuff that's in media, and typically you will hear something. So I haven't heard that much about
Yeah,
either.
Liberty was kind of the favorite to win out of Conference USA, and they got beat in the first round of the conference tournament, or in their first game of the conference tournament, and that kind of put them in this position to be in the NIT. But I think if they would have been able to get through and get to the tournament, they probably would have been a 12 seed. I think a lot of teams would have been a little scared of.
Yeah. Well, there's somebody to keep an eye on, Liberty and Auburn, also Nevada, and Murray State, and so there's that side of the bracket. Let's go over to the other, and we'll take a look first at the number two seed, on one portion here, the Albuquerque region. California gets in, and
Hmm.
they'll be taking on UIC. And
Yep, Cal. Yeah, Cal got into the NIT, and again, once again, glad they accepted the invitation. I think this is a team, again, a program is starting to figure things out. I mean, they do have they're a team that returns, like if they could return their core. Let's add that caveat. I mean,
right.
Data Ames has one more year. Justin Pippen has two more years. They can build around that, and I think they have a real shot. I thought Mark Manson did a pretty good job coaching this team. It's just they kind of fell off at the end of the season, losing the Wake, losing at home to Pitt, losing to Syracuse. Those are kind of inexplicable losses that put them in this spot. But I think if they can build around the two names I mentioned, Ames and Pippen, I think they can contend for a berth next season in the big dance.
New Mexico is the number one seed on this side of things. They will be taking on Sam Houston. Utah Valley is the number four seed. They take on George Washington. And Colorado State is the number three seed. They'll face St. Joseph's, which should be a really hot game, because I think St. Joseph's has the ability to knock off Colorado State. We'll see. Um, and no more ACC teams there, but I'll run down the remainder of these folks who are in on this side of the bracket. Tulsa is at number one seed. They'll take on SFA on the 17th. UC Irvine is number four. UNLV is their opponent on the 17th. Wichita State is the number three seed, and they will be facing off with Wyoming. And the number two seed is Oklahoma State. They will see Davidson. And Davidson is always one of those teams that you should never, ever look past. So that's the NIT. That's going to be an interesting tournament this season. I think there's going to be some fun basketball games. Don't look past the NIT, folks. 'Cause this is the one thing that, the last couple of years, NIT has really kind of been, uh, downplayed, and their reputation has been called into question. Blah blah blah. When I was younger, and I know that's back when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, um, NIT action was absolutely a must to watch. The teams that didn't make the NCAA tournament, you were talking about some quality teams that were showing up in the NIT and really giving a what for. And so when those teams, whatever team ended up winning the NIT, you knew those are the teams you should really be watching the next year for the NCAA tournament. And that's usually what happened. I think they're kind of getting back to that a little bit now. And I understand why some teams will say no to playing in it. Uh, some really good reasons. I mean, we briefly talked to. I mean, you talked about this with Chris, uh, about Virginia Tech, and you know, there's a couple of things there that come into play. So, what can I tell you? Yeah, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. The NIT, I think, is a good place for teams to go pick up that extra experience, season up your players who are coming back next season, and be prepared to take off and really have a great season in the NCAA action. So, let's move over to the NCAA men's bracket and take a look at who's who. So we'll start with our overall number one seed, Duke, who is taking on number 16, Siena.
Yeah, and just kind of overlooking the this region as a whole, boy, they really did Duke no favors, huh?
None at all.
Well, you look at it, they should handle Siena no problem. I mean, this isn't going to be like a UMBC or a Fairleigh Dickinson situation, not even close, even with Caleb Foster potentially out for the tournament. But if they should they win, they should get Ohio State or TCU in the next round. Again, winnable game. They should handle them. It's when they get deeper into the tournament, when you get to the Sweet 16, let's put it this way, folks. Let's look at I'm just going to quickly go down some of these other coaches. Okay, the two seed in this region, UConn,
Yep.
Dan Hurley going for 3 titles in 4 years. Tom Izzo, one of the best coaches of this generation. Same with Rick Pitino, who is the 5 seed at St. John's. And Bill Self at Kansas. Again, how many national championships has Kansas won? They've won several over the past decade. Um, yeah, they did Duke no favors in this region. They, yeah, if they get through this, yeah, I think we can shut up a little bit about John Shire and being able to do this just on talent alone. He's going to have to coach his ass off to get there.
Yeah, with no doubt, and you're right. Going down this list, it is murderers row. Will I mean it's we're not talking about any easy games here, and other than you want to look at number 16 seed Siena starting out. That's it is what it is. But then after that, you start getting into all of these people that you just mentioned, and man, they could even, it might be inconceivable that this would happen, but the other ACC team in the East is number 6 seed Louisville, who takes on number 11 South Florida. So we kind of presume that they're going to move forward. But, the odds are they're going to be facing number 3 Michigan State. But Louisville has played Duke, so if they get knocked off by Michigan State and they move on and they meet Duke again, I don't know that I'm just I have some trepidation about Duke making it to the Final Four this year.
Yeah.
I
And quite
really
frankly, it's not inconceivable that South Florida can upset Louisville.
that's
Um,
true.
it's it's not so much that I mean, South Florida is a pretty good team, but it's just I just don't know how much I trust Louisville right now. They have not been what I thought they would be. I thought they would win the league this year, or at least win the regular season. But and we also know Michael Brown missed, a dozen or 10 games or so this season. Um, and Ryan Conwell's been very, very up and down. We talked about this at the end of the season, how there was a game where he's like one of like 14 from three or something like that. Isaac McNeely hasn't been what he was at Virginia this year. He did shoot 38% from three this year, but I think you expected more out of him if you
Yeah.
are Louisville, but in South Florida just ran through the American Conference and they've won 11 in a row, which is one of the longest winning streaks in the country. Um, they're a pretty good team on both sides of the ball. They're probably best at uh, second chances. They're top 10 in offensive rebound percentage in the country. They're at, like I said, they defend pretty well. This is not going to be an easy matchup for Louisville. And if they struggle from three, then South Florida has every opportunity to pull off the upset here.
Yeah. Um, so on this side, I mean, if we we've gotten past the two ACC teams, is there a game that really intrigues you that from a matchup standpoint that and maybe even going into the second round? So project
So
out a little bit.
if we project out a little bit, I think if I want to see a second round matchup out of this region, I want to see UCLA and UConn.
Yeah.
I want to see Donovan Dent, UCLA's point guard, who has just been an absolute beast for the Bruins, and a lot of the reason they're here go up against Dan Hurley in UConn. I can't remember the exact stat for Dent, but he had an insane assist to turnover rate, over the close of the season. I can't remember exactly what it was offhand, but it was just ridiculous. His assist rate, he's top 10 in assist rate in the country on per KenPom. And yeah, if you know how to pass and not turn it over, then you know what you're doing. And I like UCLA to get past UCF, but I think I would like to see the match up with UConn in the second round.
That should be a good one. I To be frank about it, I'm really interested not only in that game, but I'm also interested in St. John's in Kansas because I think that might be a
Yes.
really really good game.
Just from the coaching standpoint, Rick Pitino against Bill Self, yes, please.
Yeah, I just want to I just put cameras, isolation cameras on the coaches. Now we can watch the game, but I want their face shots up in the right hand corner for the entire game because
Yep,
I
and
want to.
don't forget we've talked about St. John. St. John's won the auto bid from the Big East. They beat UConn by 20 on Saturday in their championship game. So do not rule out the Red Storm and Rick Pitino. They have a Zuby Ejiofor is a really good player for them. He's uh, a forward who is really good at he's a good scorer, good rebounder. He can get to the rim and get to the free throw line. He's going to be a tough matchup for Kansas if they meet up in the Sweet 16.
So I have an old buddy that I used to I didn't work with him, but he was in the same business basically as I was, so we knew each other and we did a lot of things together, etc. And he went to St. John's, and he used to always give me what for over St. John's was this, that, and the other thing, and I would always go, it's all about the ACC, and we go back and forth on that nonsense. So I would just say that Joe. Congratulations, buddy. You got a great team there, and I hope you go a long way. So let's go over to the other side of the bracket here and take a look at the number one seed, Arizona, who will be facing off with number 16, Long Island. Long
Fins
Island.
up. No, Arizona is. I think they're one of my favorite teams to watch this season. Just because they don't do it a traditional the today traditional way where they shoot a ton. They don't shoot a ton of threes. They do a lot of work on the inside, and they
Good.
I think they can. I think they're going to cause a lot of matchup problems in this region with a lot of different teams. Although I would love to see them get into the Sweet 16 to face Darius Acuff in Arkansas, who's one of the best guards in the country.
I think they probably will be.
Mhm.
So Villanova and Utah State are the eight and nines, and that that has some intrigue as well.
Yeah, Villanova Utah State is a good pretty. I mean, they're 8-9, so it's a pretty even matchup. I have not really sat down and thought about who I'm going to pick in this game yet. I think it's very coin flippy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's I haven't either, to be frank
Mhm.
about it, and I always like to digest these brackets first, and sometimes
Yeah.
it takes me a day or so to sort of,
Hmm.
my gut goes one way, the brain goes another, and then I got to figure out which one is right. Also, on this side of things in the West, it's number seven seed Miami taking on number 10 Mizzou. That should be a good matchup for those two teams. Um, Miami, there's just been enough question, they're just like bubbling under, I keep
Yeah.
waiting for them to sort of up, you know.
Yeah, I again amazing year one under Jay Lucas
Oh,
getting an
great
NCAA
job.
tournament.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, we thought they were just there because of record and not really because they beat anybody. And then they finally beat teams and they're like, oh, this team is legit. And
Mhm.
I think the one thing that stands out about this matchup is they put Missouri this game Miami and Missouri in St. Louis. Feels like a little bit of a home court advantage for the 10 seed to
Uh-huh.
me, but I mean,
Hey,
I I'm also and this isn't the first time it's happened it happened. I know there was a time years ago when Steph Curry was at Davidson that they put the first and second round games in the Carolinas, and it kind of ended up, especially after the way he was shooting in a tournament, he was yeah, it was almost like a home court advantage.
yep. Want to bring as many eyeballs and many behinds in the seats, that's got a lot to do with it, and I don't blame anybody for doing it that way. I mean, it's promoting the sport, getting
Yep.
people excited, and as many fans as possible. Jason Carmelo with Big Underdog Bracketology, his one of his favorite teams. I won't say it's his favorite, but he talks about these folks all the time. Number two seed is Purdue. The
Hmm.
Boilermakers have a pretty easy ride here with Queens out of North Carolina as number 15 seed.
Yep. Yep, Queen's University in the tournament for the first time ever. Yeah, Purdue won the Big Ten auto bid. They beat Michigan in the first in the Big Ten championship game, which, that's a very impressive win. We should also add while we're here in the West region, Jim, NC State's in the playing game
Ah,
against
this is true.
Texas on this week. So, and I talked about this on our TikTok or on one of the TikToks. I am surprised NC State ended up in the playing game. I thought they had done enough to get away from it to be comfortably in, but the fact that they ended up in the playing game says otherwise. But we all know how what Will Wade thinks of this team. He's not a big fan of them, but they're facing a Texas team that has been very up and down this season. They both lost to Virginia, by the way, on their own court. So just saying.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. Let's roll over to let's see here, the South. So the number one seed there is Florida, the Gators, and there's a playing game there waiting for them. So we'll skip over that and go to the next game up on the bracket is number eight Clemson taking on number nine Iowa. Boy, that's got potential for being a nice game.
Yeah, Brad Burnell continues to do it, folks. He just tends to
Accurate.
do more with less. And with them losing Carter Welling for the season with a torn ACL in their first game really puts a damper on this. Because I think if he was healthy, I would probably lean more into Clemson. And they did even still gave Duke a pretty good game. They lost by 12, but they didn't get blown out of the gym like you would think they would. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a I haven't really like sat down and thought through this right now, but I'm kind of leaning towards the Hawkeyes. But again, I haven't because they have the Benestert, who is a really fun basketball player for the Hawkeyes, and he might be the reason that Iowa wins.
Our next ACC team on the South bracket is number six, North Carolina. They're going to be taking on number 11, VCU, out of my backyard in Richmond. And VCU is not somebody that's going to be an easy win. So they may very well give North Carolina a very hard time in this game. So I would just as a warning to Tar Heels fans, the Rams. Um, I don't know what it is, but they always are super competitive basketball wise, and you know, no different this year.
Yeah, and they even said the selection committee chair said that VCU would not have gotten in if they lost the A10 auto bid.
Mhm.
That's very intriguing to me because I thought they were solidly, they were at least going to get into the playing game.
Right.
But when you look at their resume, they've won 16 of the last 17 games coming into this. Their one loss was to St. Louis in a 13-point loss a couple weeks ago. And this is a team that shoots the three really well, plays pretty solid defensively as well. And again, they did Carolina no favors with this game because you well know, Jim, VCU is always going to be a tough out no matter what. And like this is one of those potential upsets if things go wrong, that I think VCU can do this.
Yeah, don't overlook VCU. All I can tell you is that they have always been the team that's going to take it to you, and lights out. So just be prepared. Another game that I looked at and thought, well, this could be fun. Number 7 seed St. Mary's and number 10 Texas A&M.
Yeah, I like this matchup. It's a very different contrast of styles here. You've got a team in Texas A&M, first year coach Bucky McMillan. He got them in. They actually had a really strong start to the season and actually were leading the SEC at one point. And then it had finished 21-11. They kind of struggled towards the end of the season. They had a four-game losing streak at one point, but their bugaboos are not super great defensively. They don't fend on the interior very well, but they do shoot the three well. Yeah, and they run at a really fast pace as well. They're top 30 in tempo, where St. Mary's is right around 300 in tempo, but they're top 20 defense. And they're a really good defensive team, and I think this is a game where the contrast of styles is going to be interesting, and I think this is a very coin flip game, quite frankly.
So if you haven't done your bracket yet, maybe you should not you, Will, but you as a listener, as a viewer, maybe this will everything that we're providing here will give you a little better idea of where things stand. There's several brackets out there I think that are worth getting into. One of them obviously is on the NCAA, the other is ESPN, and Yahoo does some, and et cetera, et cetera. So, spread it out and see what you come up with. It's a fun thing to do. And I know that one of the originators of this program used to have his wife do brackets, and she often came out with the better bracket results than he did. So, I'm just saying, maybe I'm going to get my wife to do one and see what happens. It,
Jill's gonna win it, isn't
I
she?
probably, yeah, yeah. I just have that feeling that that's probably what's going to happen. So, over on the Midwest side, we've got number 1 seed Michigan, and there's a couple play-in games here, and we'll talk about an ACC team that's. Let's just bounce down here real quick. One of these play-in games. Um, Number 11 SMU and number 11 Miami of Ohio. Congratulations to the folks at Miami of Ohio. They've been doing a good job. The folks at SMU have been doing a great job. So it's this is going to be a fun game as a play-in. This ought to be absolutely a wild game.
Yeah, I when they did the um things to on did the reveal, I was surprised when I saw that SMU or when NC State was in a playing game. I thought that meant SMU was going to be out. And that ended up not being the case. I mean, this is a it's a very interesting team. You get two teams that are really good shooting. Miami of Ohio is number two in 2-point percentage. They're 22nd in terms of 3-point percentage. Their effective field goal percentage is number six in the country. And then you've got SMU on the other side, who's top 30 in terms of shoot effective field goal percentage, top 30 in 3-point percentage, top 50 in 2-point percentage. So what you're going to expect here in a game like this is a lot of scoring.
Yes. Yeah. Don't be surprised if both teams are in the 90s, maybe even the hundreds.
Yeah, that's definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
So it's going to be a wild game. It'll be a lot of fun to watch. Make sure that you catch that. Just tell you, just remind you again here, real quick. These games are the 17th through the 18th, and they're spread across TBS, TNT, True TV, and CBS. So you'll have to check out and see where that game is going to be played and what time. I don't have that right in front of me at the moment. Um, and I'm almost afraid to click on, on a link here because it might take me completely away from what I'm doing
So the SMU game is at 9:15 Eastern on Wednesday.
on Wednesday, 9:15.
Or 30 minutes after the first game ends. And then the NC State game will be the same time on Tuesday. They're both the second game of the night.
So I was hoping that would be 9:15 a.m.
You're probably going to be long gone, aren't you?
I mean, I could be. Yes. It's amazing how much coffee I ingest during this particular time period. Um, Other games that
Hear you there.
uh, look pretty interesting. Midwest, Georgia, number 8, and St. Louis at number 9. This ought to be a good matchup.
Another game where there should be a lot of scoring. St. Louis is a team that puts up a lot of points. Same with Georgia. They're just not the best defenses either. I think it's funny when I pulled up Ken Pom and their fan match to kind of see what their simulation score. It is 86-84 in favor of Georgia. So
Hmm.
Ken Pom expects this to be a high scoring close game. So I see no my immediate reaction was that was the same. So you should be this should be one of the fun 8-9 games to watch.
So we got number 6 Tennessee sitting there, and they've got the winner of a play-in game coming their way. And then up next, ACC, Virginia, number 3 seed, takes on number 14, Wright State. And that should be a good matchup. Let me say something before, and folks know Will is a Virginia fan. You should know by now that I don't have a team within the ACC that I'm most in favor of. Okay, I'm a fan of the conference, which I know is wacky. I like just watching sports. I love the ACC. I will just tell you that Virginia Duke game was just a fabulous, just ball and game. I it told me a lot about where Virginia is from the standpoint of things really getting together and starting to click and coming together at the right time, and that's very important. And it also that ACC tournament has told me a lot about Duke, and that's why when we were talking about Duke earlier, I just I'm not really settled on Duke. Even they they won a game before that by a point, and Virginia really took it to them. Now, granted, it's the ACC tournament, but here you're getting ready to face all kinds of competition, different mindsets in the NCAA tournament. So if you're having this much of a challenge within the ACC tournament, what's it going to be like for Duke in the tournament? And I just have a feeling, and this is me, I think actually that Virginia might go further than Duke in the NCAA tournament.
Boy, that's a hot take.
Yes, it is. But
I
my gut's been telling me that ever since I watched that game and digested it and really thought about it. I slept on it overnight and I just went, man, there's something telling me here that this is the way this is going to turn out. So,
Yeah, I mean Virginia did a phenomenal year one under Ryan Odom, getting to a three seed. I was surprised when the Discord started coming around on Sunday saying, "Oh, Virginia could get a three seed," and I just kind of resigned myself to no matter what they did in the ACC tournament that they would end up on the four line. And I think that win over Miami, the way they handled the Hurricanes, pretty much put them there. And yeah, that ACC championship game was just a really, really well played basketball game on both sides. You, I mean, obviously Duke was a little banged up, and I thought there were absolutely opportunities for Virginia to get it and win, but again, in the end, Duke just overpowered them with their talent. And yeah, Virginia has an interesting road. We talked about Rice State, and then if they were able to beat that, they could take on the winner of Tennessee and either Miami, Ohio, or or SMU. Tennessee, from the SEC, obviously had a pretty solid season, ending up on the sixth line. I I don't know. I could see a path to the Sweet 16 for Virginia where they could potentially face Iowa State. But
yeah.
I'm looking at the right above Kentucky, Santa Clara. I'm very intrigued by that because there's a lot of people who believe Santa Clara can be Kentucky, and if that happens, oh boy, the people in Lexington are not going to be happy.
That's an understatement. I mean, they're already sort of pitchforked and all that, you know. It's
Hmm.
because, you know, I read something earlier today, something about, oh yeah, John Calipari, should, we should never have gotten rid of him, blah blah blah. And I think it was Dan Walken came back and with a response and explained why it was a good thing for him to move on. And so, yeah, we have to be realistic about things. Sometimes, your stay is that's it. You got to move on. And
Eventually,
programs
you
change.
either wear out your welcome or who knows what. But
Yeah,
yeah,
or
that's
you just
basically
lose
what it
touch
was.
with stuff, whatever. It happens. It happens in every sport, and we've seen it. We've seen it. And some coaches decide that they're going to get out before that happens to them, and we have a classic example at UVA. And I to this day, it's like it was shocking, but it was the man looked at it and went, "It's not really what I want to, where I want to be," and he was not comfortable with it, so he made a decision. Bravo. I wish more people were that smart. And I'm looking at you, Syracuse. Now I got to deal with the guy on national TV talking about basketball. So anyway, that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. So that's pretty much the way that the tournaments are laid out. So we've taken a look at the NCAA women's basketball tournament, the NIT, and the NCAA men's tournament. A lot of fantastic basketball coming our way. I hope that you're sitting in front of your TV or at the game enjoying yourself and just pulling it all in. College basketball, what more could you ask for? Hey, until next time, cheers.
Cool.